One of the first potential tenants that we were getting that was really sticking and engaging in conversation with us had a couple red flags. But it got tricky because they also had a couple of green flags and they were honest about their red flags. They told us without us even having to search for them. And there were enough green flags that it looked like, okay, those red flags aren't really red. Maybe they're just yellow in this case. And that was not the case at all. I survived round one layoff, round two layoffs. I even get a bonus. And then round three layoffs, it was my turn to go. And, when the whole thing happened, I was looking back and I was like, so should I have stayed at the previous firm? Like, I could have cried, I could have shed more tears for that woman. I could have figured it out, just toughened up and made it through. And maybe I just wouldn't have gone laid off. I would have been fine because all my colleagues that stayed at that firm, they're fine. They didn't get laid off. They even got to move to different places and they're doing well. But I can't do that because in that time, I knew that that was the right decision for me at that time. There's something about the ages from 28 to 32 that just feel like they come with mandatory life altering events and situations. And honestly, with the defining year that 28 was for me and the way that 29 is going, from the ups, the downs, the realizations, the mistakes that I made, the losses, I promise you, I don't want to relive the last year and a half. But I know that these lessons were so necessary and I'll definitely be taking them with me well into my 30s. So, on today's episode, it's just me and you, and I will be getting into some of the lessons that 29 has taught me by fire and by force. Now, I think that this is a type of episode that goes really well with your chai latte and your notebook if you're that type of girly, or your glass of wine and your note-taking app if you're that type of girly. So whatever it is that you need, go ahead and pause the episode right now. Go and get what you need and come right back and let's get into this conversation. As always, you are welcome to But What Do I Know, a space for honest conversations, lived experiences, and growth in real time. I'm Chidinma, and I am so glad that your curiosity led you right here. Let me start by saying that I am not someone that is overly strategic in my life journey, right? I don't go into every year looking out for the lessons, taking my previous lessons from the previous year into the current year and just picking them apart. I'm semi-strategic, but I'm not that strategic, okay? However, with the literal roller coaster that the past year and a half has taken me on with the amount of discomfort that I have had to sit in, it's not like these lessons even just showed up for me. At times they were glaring, sometimes even yelling at me. So this is not a 9 for 29, conversation for the sake of it or just to share advice. This conversation will be me thinking about the things I'm navigating, talking through them, reflecting in real time. Right? So, number one, and this is a big one. This is a really, really, really big one. Avoid making rush decisions. And I say this is a big one because this is probably the hardest lesson I had to learn this past year. And it was the hardest because the decision that I made that was rushed had such high stakes. There's some decisions you make and the cost, it's you can bear it and you can move on. But with this one, this came with high stakes. And unfortunately, my rush decision just ended in a year of just difficulty, financial issues, trying to navigate things. And so y'all, avoid making rush decisions. So what happened? What had happened was, if you listen to this podcast, you know that I believe I talked about it in ending of 2024, beginning of 2025. I talked about, getting into an investment with my sister and my parents, right? So we had bought a property, we're done some family planning. We had saved a lot, especially me and my sister finishing school. We saved a lot. And, our parents, God bless them, said, you know what, let's help you guys and let's do this together. It could be for multiple reasons. Let's just sort of create a family plan, and it led us to get in this property, right? And I have a whole episode about property buying, home ownership, renting out your property to someone. I have a whole conversation about that, and we will get into that in a future episode. But for the highlights for this one, we got this property. It was part of, a larger family planning as my parents also get older, want to retire, all of that, right? So we got this property, and then, my sister and I sit and we realize we're not ready to one move into the property to take on a mortgage of this, on a mortgage of this size. We at this point want to rent the property out. Especially because if you buy a property, you know that it really drains your savings. And it is always, encouraged that you don't just have enough to get you the property, you have a little bit more, right? And we did, but at the point, we were just kind of thinking through it and decided, let's rent it out. Now we go to rent out this property and we go to see, we go to find a tenant for the property. And one of the first potential tenants that we were getting that was really sticking and engaging in conversation with us had a couple of red flags. But it got tricky because they also had a couple of green flags and they were honest about their red flags. They told us without us even having to search for them. And there were enough green flags that it looked like, okay, those red flags aren't really red. Maybe they're just yellow in this case. And that was not the case at all. On top of that too, my sister also really was having a tough time at her job at the time. She really hated her job. She was struggling. She was complaining every day. We were tired of hearing it, and she wanted to take a sabbatical, take a work break. So we're feeling the pressure of the fact that, okay, we just made this purchase. We want to rent it ASAP. My sister's about to leave. I can't handle the mortgage on my own. Oh my gosh, we got to find a tenant ASAP. Okay, stat. So yeah, we entertained this tenant. We talked to them. We sign, and we have a new tenant. Yay! For 2 months, and then it goes, what the fuck? And so they paid their rent on time for the first 2 months. And then for every single month after that, for the time that they were there, which is about a year, they paid their rent late. And when they left, let me tell you, they left a sight for me to see at that home when they left. And when I think back to that, I just think we should have absolutely just slowed down and taken our time because it was such a big decision, and I think part of it too is it was our first time doing this. So we thought we were dotting our I's and crossing the T's. We thought we were being careful. We thought we were going through the processes. We also had a realtor help us, but this came through a different ad and not MLS. So we thought we were doing all the things, but we were also moving really quickly. And that's the thing is sometimes when you're moving really quickly and you have that surge of emotion that's almost telling you that this is an emergency, you got to act now, you got to act now, you can actually speak to that emotion and quiet it down and reduce the pace because a lot of times things aren't an emergency. You can actually slow it down. And even the more that I think about the situation and I reflect, I just think about the few situations I've made in my life where they have come from this space of a fear of what if nothing comes, a fear of will better come, will I find someone else to help me, will I do this, will I. Every time that I have made a decision from that standpoint, it has never turned out well for me. It has never turned out well. And I think this was sort of the biggest lesson for me to finally learn that. Chidinma, you coconut head, just learn this lesson once and for all, okay? I have learned it now because it was a painstaking, horrible year to go through and have to navigate this. You're just the financial cost of it, the time cost, the energy cost. My sister and I would look at each other and I was like, I can't believe we went through this and we're still navigating it. There's still things that need to be done. I still have to go to the landlord and tenant board and fight over funds and whoo. So I say that to say I have learned, and again, this doesn't mean that you sit in a period of indecision for a long period of time, right? There are some decisions that will require you to act quickly. Those exist, right? But I think you can slow down, you can consider your pros, your cons, you can think through it, you can information gather, and then make your decision. Especially when it's a decision that has higher stakes, just make sure you are thinking through it, you're being careful, you are just making the decision to the best of your ability so that you avoid long-lasting negative effects like what I had to deal with this past year and a half. So that was a very hard lesson for me to learn, but I promise you, I have learned it now. I have absolutely learned that lesson now, and I will never make this mistake again. And I think my silver lining in all of this is that I learned this lesson at 29 with the help of my sister. I'm with my family. We did this together. I didn't do this alone at the age of 40 something. So that is my silver lining. It's what sort of, helps me sleep at night when I think about the situation is that you didn't do this alone. You did it with people that you love. You did it with people that you cared about, and they were with you through every step of the journey. So that definitely helped. So that's lesson one. And this next lesson might feel like a contradiction to lesson number one, but it's not. Okay, it's not. And that is be proud of the good decisions that you make, regardless of the outcome. And the reason I say it might sound like a contradiction to lesson number one is because you might say, well, Chid, you just told us to avoid making rash decisions, but then now you're saying be proud of decisions we make regardless of the outcome. But yes, be proud of that because lesson number one dealt with everything leading up to making a decision. We're talking our gathering of our information, the pros and cons, the charts, the thoughts, all the things that goes into you making this decision, right? Once you have made a decision, you trust that it's the best. You've made the decision with all the information that you have at that time. Just rest because at the end of the day, you can't kill yourself. And what I have learned and what is true is that just because you make a well-informed, thoughtful, intentional decision doesn't always result in the best outcome, right? And I think a really great example of this is for those of you who've been listening to this podcast for years and years, you know that in my other life, I'm an urban planner and much of my career has been in consulting, right? And so I was at this particular consulting firm for years and I liked it. I was growing. I loved the people I worked with. And it was a really good space for me at that point in my career, right? And then around 2022, things started to change. I felt like I wasn't getting the projects that I really wanted to work on. I wanted some more dynamic and different types of projects, right? And then I got put on a few projects with a particular project manager that made my life, when I say a live in hell, a live in hell. I shed tears. I was just sad. I was really anxious logging into Teams. Like, when everything just feels like you're fighting with somebody for no reason, really. I would do things one way. She would say, no, we're not doing things this way. We're doing things another way. I would do things based on how the client expected things to be done. According to her, I was doing it the wrong way. And other PMs, they knew, and they would always tell me, you're doing well. That's just her leadership style. Please know that. But there's only so much you can take. So that coupled with the fact that I felt like I wanted a different set of projects, I decided in 2023, I was like, you know what? I'm going to talk to a recruiter and I'm going to leave. So I left and I went to another firm. And things there were great. Okay, I was enjoying the work culture. It's hybrid. I'm having a good time. The projects are a little bit more difficult, but this is also what I asked for and what I wanted because these projects and reflected on those projects that I took are the reason why my CV looks the way that it looks. I'm grateful for that, right? But I was working through these challenging projects. I love the work culture. I also liked most of my colleagues because I've just come to realize you're just not going to like every single person. It may just not be the case all the time. You get lucky sometimes, and sometimes you just have to kind of figure out how to navigate them cleanly. Okay. So yeah, I was growing, I was learning. It was a good environment. And then around 2024, Q4, things started to change. Work culture is shifting. It's becoming a lot more corporate. Acquisition happens. That's sign number one. Once you're working at a company and they get bought out, it doesn't always mean that layoffs and bad things are coming, but it is something to just be aware of and to monitor closely. I'll say that. So Q4 2024 acquisition happens. They tell us everything is fine. 2025 comes. Trump takes office. Now we're dealing with tariffs. Tariffs are affecting a lot of industries. Interest rates are changing. Housing market is shifting, which means people aren't building, which means a lot of firms in the planning industry and architecture aren't getting a lot of work. I survive round one layoff, round two layoffs. I even get a bonus. And then round three layoffs, it was my turn to go. And, when the whole thing happened, I was looking back and I was like, so should I have stayed at the previous firm? Like, I could have cried, I could have shed more tears for that woman. I could have figured it out, just toughened up and made it through. And maybe I just wouldn't have gone laid off. I would have been fine because all my colleagues that stayed at that firm, they're fine. They didn't get laid off. They even got to move to different places and they're doing well. I can't do that because in that time, I knew that that was the right decision for me at that time. Between the projects, between the project management style, it just wasn't working. And that was genuinely the right move for me at that time. But it just didn't result long term to the outcome that I wanted or I had hoped for. But I have to be okay with the decision that I made. So that's what I mean by be proud of the good decisions you make. Okay. I'll give you another example. I have a friend, and every time I think about her, I promise you, I pray for her because she has been navigating a lot over the past year and a half. But she took a work break in Q4 of 2024. 2024 was just such a pivotal time. It's almost like if you go back, you can kind of trace where things were starting to shift. And in 2025, it feels like things just went downhill. But she took a work break in 2024 because she just, again, didn't enjoy her job. She was trying to pivot. She just wanted to rest. Took the break and was ready to come back into the workforce in 2025. See wahala. When she now comes back, she's applying, 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 and it is just really difficult. And she hasn't been able to find work in her field, in her industry. And now she is pivoting, going back to school, just really contemplating all her different options at this time, right? And again, like, even when I talk with her, what I love is that the word regret hasn't been spoken from her tongue. Like, she hasn't said, I regret this. Because she says, I'm happy. Like, it was something that I needed to do. I had to take the break. I traveled and I was prepared for it. I had saved. I also live at home, so I knew I had a support system. And ultimately, like, it was just the best decision for me at that time, right? Now it's taken longer for me to find work. It's taken too long for me, but I can't start saying that I regret it. I cannot talk about the fact that I was, proud of that decision, especially at that time. So I say that to say, listen, if you have done the best that you can with your decision making, you have, you've gathered all your information, you have done your pros and cons chart, you just know in your gut that this is the best decision to make for yourself at that time. Make it and then rest, because also sometimes you just can't gamify the system. You can plan and try to shift things and plot and strategize, and things will still happen. So when you have made the decision that you feel is best for you at that time, that's all you can do, because I have just learned that the best things happen to those who make the best of any decision that they're in at that time. And it really is just that simple. And I think personally for me, having to navigate, the layoff last year and things shifting in my career and work and just things shifting globally with all this economic uncertainty, especially right now, I have had to confront and deal with my fear of not having or losing money. I think the fear of not having or losing money can be so crippling that it causes you to, stop living and to stop approaching things boldly. And this is a lesson that was really important for me to learn, especially last year, because let me tell you, once I lost my job last year, once I closed my laptop after they told me that I've been laid off, the panic that ensued in my body, like, I just started panicking because 2025 had been the year that I told myself I was going to give my creative project my all. I was going to put money into the podcast for my 9 to 5. I was going to take this more seriously. I was going to really invest in the video side of things and grow on YouTube. I was going to travel a little bit more. And it meant that I would make sacrifices in other aspects of my life. But those are the two things I was really prepared for: my podcast and just traveling, right? And as soon as they laid me off, I called my editor. I said, hey, can't do this anymore. Plans have changed. I just started pulling back all the things that I had planned to do. I started panicking. I started canceling things. Even going to Lagos last year, at a point, I was like, can I make this trip work? And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I went. I had such a good time. But that fear of not having money is just really consuming. And I mean, fear, at the root of it, fear is all consuming, right? But that fear of not having money, or that fear of losing money, it takes this to a whole other level. And I think I'm just so inspired right now. Like, when I look at my friends who are making shit shake with the little that they have, like, they're traveling, they're taking reductions in salaries, and they're okay with it because there's a certain level of freedom in their movement that they have. Or when I look at, older friends or mentors, or even my parents, like people like my dad, who they're able to just move money and, for lack of a better word, play with money in a way that I just can't. Like, my my mind is blown. that is so inspiring to me. And I think it's a place that I want to get to. Like I'm talking like people are moving money here, there, this week, they're losing money, then they've gained it next week, then they're taking money out, then they're starting a business, then they're investing, then they've lost, but it's okay because they'll gain again next week. I'm like, I too would like to get there, and that fear doesn't just disappear overnight. You don't just get there overnight. I think it generally does take a lot of work to make sure that your capital, your money, your mind is right so that if slash when you do lose the job or your business doesn't go according to your plan or your investments don't work out, you're not shaken because you know that it's just part of the journey. So this is one that I'm still very much navigating, but once I get to a point that I don't know if I'll ever be at 0% with this one. I don't think that my fear will just absolutely not be there. I'm a type A girl. I think it's always going to be there. But I think if I can reduce that fear to like 25% to where I just have this boldness and freedom with the decisions that I make, especially when it comes to my finances, I will be so proud of myself. I think this is a really big lesson for me to learn. It just because it really does teach you that money comes and goes. And again, back to that control with the first two lessons. You can't control what you can't control. So if the job comes today, the job goes tomorrow. I think you just have to be prepared mentally for these things and to also, again, like I said, work to put yourself in a situation to where you're able to just move with the fluidity of life. So the next lesson, and this is a quick one. Like I said, I'm a type A girl. So as a type A girl, I love a tidy up. But this one is tidy up loose ends. And I think 2025 for me was a tidying up year. I closed a lot of loops, when it came to the tenant I spoke about. We started the process of getting them out and we came close to wrapping that up in 2025. When it came to just things regarding my health, I had a lot of outstanding appointments. I handled all those. I think, I had a lot of important conversations, even in terms of friendships and personal life and relationship and just with myself. So whether it's an appointment, whether it is, a conversation that you need to have with somebody, with yourself, whether it's the next move you need to make, an investment, a job, a business, something you need to apply to, do it. Handle it because tomorrow has its own issues, has its own wahala. So whatever you can do today, do it and tidy up those loose ends. This next lesson, I'm actually excited to share this one because I think it's one that I'm just getting back into now and I'm really enjoying it, but I think I can only enjoy it because of all that I've been through and where I am now. And that is tracking your personal growth through journaling. And I say that as someone who I haven't really been writing in the past months. I'm just getting back into it. But over the past year, like I said, I was so discombobulated. My mind was all over the place and it was really hard for me to write. I was, sort of voice noting myself a couple of things. I was using music to sort of track my feelings and emotions. But lucky for me, I've been talking on the mic. Okay. I have a podcast. So I can use this as a forum to sort of track my growth. And it is such a beautiful thing because when I go back and I listen to conversations that I've had from years ago, I can track, I can hear the tone in my voice, how I was feeling, if I was afraid. I can see the shift in my mindset. Like I can just track maybe the nervousness that I had when I was dealing with this, especially when I go back to conversations from last year when, I had lost my job. Just I could hear the angst and being in limbo and not knowing what was coming next. And now I can see the confidence and just the growth coming out of that situation to now and navigating that. I can sort of just track it, even in the way that I talk about that situation now. So I think it's so important, whatever your journaling style and method is going to be or is currently, use it and just track it, like monitor and see how you have grown or how you grow over time. Because I promise you, it'll be really beautiful and amazing to you to just kind of see how you change over time. And I say that because sometimes personal growth is also something that isn't easily quantifiable. If you grow financially we can track that because your debt has reduced, your savings has increased, your investments have gone up, your liability has reduced, your net worth has gone up. And there are things that we can point to and say, yeah, that person has really grown financially. You know, if it's intellectually, maybe the types of books you're reading, the number of books you're reading in a year, the language, your vocabulary. Again, there are things that we can point to and say, hey, you're growing. But with personal growth, it's a little bit harder to quantify. Like there are things that we can point to, but it is hard to quantify. You could see someone this year, see them next year, and perhaps maybe they're more stern. They're very firm. You might even think that that person is rude. But if you had seen them last year and if you tracked through journaling, you would know that okay, that person is rude or is more firm because they have navigated so much that now that's the season that they're in. They have to be firm and stern and maybe borderline rude to protect themselves from the things that they have been navigating, right? So I think it's not as easy as just seeing someone or even just seeing yourself at a surface level and taking it like that. I think if you actually journal and you track and you see, okay, I changed for this reason. I became this way because of this particular situation. I think then it also gives you a more holistic view to why you are the person that you are. So I do think journal, girly, journal. It doesn't have to be writing. Like I said, I'm writing now, but writing wasn't always easy for me over the past year. It was hard to get my thoughts on paper. I prefer to talk. I have a podcast, shocker. But I prefer to just voice note myself and voice memo myself. And even when I do write, it's a lot of free form writing. Like I'm writing words. I may not write complete sentences. I allow myself to just put whatever comes to my mind on that piece of paper. And over time, I can just kind of see, oh, okay, in this time I was writing just words because that was where I was at in that time. So I think it definitely helps to just track your personal growth in that way. And part of, growth, this one, boy, comes evaluating your friendships, especially as you evolve. And I am not a cut off your friends, leave if it no longer serves you, just leave them, cut them, and cut a bitch off. Like, I am not that kind of person, okay? I am a lot more tactical. I will take my time with it. We're not one and done here, especially when it comes to friendships. I just really value people in my life a lot more than that. But I will say in the past 4 years, I have lost two notable friendships. And I say notable because the first one was a strong friendship. Like that was my dog. Okay. I'm not going to lie. That was my dog. We were so close. And then the second one, we were building into a friendship. Right. And with the first one, I think what I learned was I was definitely a coward. I was definitely a coward. And if you want to hear more about the story, I actually had an episode last year where I spoke about it with BK. So you can go and watch or listen to that episode after this. Okay. After this. Okay. Because we're not going to pause right now. Go listen to this one in its entirety. And then you can go listen to that one after. All right. But yes, I spoke about it with BK. And I think I even talked about this in that episode. I said, yeah, I was a bit of a coward. And I think I could have definitely had a conversation with her earlier. I could have definitely approached that a little bit more with a little bit more tact. But I just think because the friendship had faded and we hadn't talked in months, I had gone through all the feelings of the friendship. And so when you now come to me and you want to have this conversation, I have mentally moved on and I just wasn't in the same space. And I just thought this friendship has just so dissolved in the past couple months. What are we picking up? What are we doing? But I think after that, I felt so bad at leaving that situation that I told myself, learn from this and take this into any other future friendship situation you have. And I learned so much from that situation that coming into this second situation that I'm talking about, I can truly say and stand on it and say that I wasn't really at fault. And this has been confirmed, after the situation happened and it happened in Lagos. What didn't happen last year? And side note, Lagos, they say your friendship gets tested on trips and specifically cities like Miami. You might have to add Lagos to that one because it will really test your friendship. Okay. There's something in that city. There's something in that Lagos. Huh. yeah, so going back to just, when everything happened, it was confirmed with our mutual friends and people who know us that no, Chid had a right to feel the way that she felt. You did something and it hurt her, and you did it in a way that just, and it's not that this person did something that was so outrageous and so horrible, but I think especially for where we were in that friendship, I just really didn't care to pursue it because it was almost like, I just can't believe that you lack self-awareness to this degree. I'll say it like that. And so what was done was just really hurtful to me. It just felt like, damn, I just thought that you would, be a little bit more self-aware. And I also understand that, people have to go on their own journey and also learn and reflect back, and perhaps, maybe we'll in the future have conversations and reignite the friendship. I suspect that as she also, navigates things and grows, she will also understand why that situation was hurtful to me. I already understand, the reasons and, why. I understand, just her life context, etc. for that. But I think what both of these situations have taught me is that at this point in my life right now, I really need and want 360-degree friends. I'm not doing that thing anymore that we do where, you have one friend for clubbing, one friend for your serious topics, one friend that will do book club with you, another friend that will do church with you, another friend that you will study with, another friend that knows all the bad things, another friend that you're not afraid to tell that your boyfriend is cheating on. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. At this point in my life, I'm sorry, but the friends that I have will have the friendships that I have cultivated and will continue to cultivate. They need to be 360. If I'm going to club with you, we're going to go out, we're going to be sipping margaritas on the beach, I should also feel comfortable coming to you and hitting certain level of depths with you. I shouldn't feel like, damn, man, this is just a person that I party with, but I can't come and talk to her about what's going on in my relationship. Or I can't come and talk to her about the fact that I just lost my job and I'm feeling shame and I'm so embarrassed and I'm feeling behind. Like, if I can't do all these things with you, yeah, no. And the girls that I have right now, they get it and they are that. So I know that it's possible, right? And I'm not saying that one person should be your world. That's deeply unfair, but I just think that I'm looking for and asking for friends that have range. I think that's what's most important to me in this time is people that have range, people that can have a variety of discussions with you. It is just the things it sweets me. They sweet me. Like there's nothing more enjoyable to me in my friendship than when I can go from talking to you about, we can talk about relationships, we can talk about men, that we can come back and talk about our careers, talk about hardships, talk about our family, talk about our dreams. Like, and just be so dynamic. Like that is so enjoyable to me. And those are the types of friendships that I want from here on out. I reserve the right to change my mind. If you listen to this podcast 2 years from now and now I've changed my mind again, fist your front. Okay? I'm allowed to change my mind. But at this time, those are the types of friendships that I want and that I will be cultivating. And I think that I encourage you to also reflect on those two. Reflect on the friendships that you currently have. Reflect on the role they play in your life, what you want from them, how you see those friendships. If you do want, more friends that can offer you more depth in your conversations so that you have maybe less friends, but you can talk about and explore a lot more. That's that. And I think, friendships are something that should also bring you joy. And that leads me to our next lesson, which is rediscover what joy means to you regularly. And this is so important because different seasons in your life will, just allow you to feel joy in different ways. I think for me last year, I enjoyed my solitude. When I told you I enjoyed being alone last year, ha, woo, there was nobody that enjoyed being alone more than me last year. I loved my solo dates. I loved being in my room. I loved my glass of wine and a book. I just loved and enjoyed my solitude. And that doesn't mean that I completely isolated myself, from my friendships and relationships and the people around me. I didn't, but there were just those moments by myself that I just enjoyed. And I think it also is part of the reason why I'm even able to speak about all these lessons and really understand and track my growth in the way that I'm able to do now, you know? And so I say that to say just rediscover, because as you grow, as you move through different seasons of your life, joy will mean so many different things to you. You know, it may mean you taking walks last year and reading, and now you want to take a pottery class. Like for me, in this season, I want more girls' time. I want to be out with my girls. Like, as you see me right now, we have made a list for summer. I've already gone to Alex Isley. You know, I went to the Alex Isley concert with a friend of mine. We've already done a barbecue together. We have a couple more, girls' days. We want to go to some beaches that are out of the GTA. We are trying to decide on what concerts we can afford because, once it comes to summer, everybody wants a tour. So now they all want our money. Like Masego wants my money, Ashake wants my money, Adekunle Gold wants my money, Usher. Slow down, okay? I can only pick like two or three. So now we're deciphering what we're gonna do together. And it's bringing me so much joy, like just being able to explore. And I told myself this summer, I really want to enjoy Toronto because for as much as I've lived in the GTA, I haven't really gone to explore the city the way that I want to. And so even with like FIFA, Fan Fest, I've been, at the Fan Fest just enjoying and just seeing people just move around. Like I'm really enjoying being outside with my girls a lot more this summer and doing it in a really affordable ways. And I'm loving it, you know? And of course, I talked about concerts and beaches and being out and exploring. I also want to do things like just pottery classes and different things. Like maybe I'll even crochet. You never know. And of course, we're going to, sprinkle in the day parties if the Toronto club promoters let us breathe, because I'm already seeing parties where it's $100 for a cooler pass. Like in this economy, can you have some mercy on us? Please, like think about what you're $100 for a cooler pass. Anyway, we'll survive, we'll make it through, but I'm so enjoying this summer and I'm really looking forward to just all the other things that we plan and we do. And so yeah, I encourage you all enjoy summer, enjoy the weather, especially if you live in the side of the world where a huge part of the year is spent inside and it's cold. Just get out, enjoy, find affordable things to do and say yes. Say yes to the party, say yes to the outings. Say yes, especially if you're an introvert like me. Say yes, girl. Say yes. Whew. This next lesson is one that I am navigating now, and I think I will be able to speak to it more next year. And that is do everything with a pure heart. This is something that my mom and I have always talked about. My mom is always someone that she always tells me, don't let the ways of the world change your personality drastically or change who you are at the core. And you're a kind person, you're a good woman, like you're growing up into being this like beautiful, gracious woman. Don't let the world ruin that for you, right? And my dad always says, don't let people ruin your day. He always sends me messages like, have a good day, dad. Don't let people ruin your day. You're the best. You got this. And it's so important to get all those like positive affirmations and reinforcement because the world can really break you down. And I feel like this past year and a half, I just feel like my kindness has been taken for granted. You from every situation, from the tenant to creative partners that I've worked with to the friendship situation, you just keep feeling like again and again, like, damn, do I have to become a bitch for y'all to get it? Do I have to become rude? And I'm so scared. Like, I'm generally kind of scared for the woman that I'll be next year because she might be a little bit of a bitch. Like, I'm sorry because it's just too much. Like, I keep internalizing, and people keep stressing me. And it's like, how much can I take? But unfortunately, or fortunately for y'all and for me, that's just not who I am. Like, I'm just not the person that is manipulative and overly strategic and wanting to be vengeful towards people. I'm still kind of hard. And I keep praying that doesn't change, and I know that ultimately the kind of impact and influence I want to live in the world is that of goodness and of joy and of sound mind and kindness. And so I can't say that I want to, deposit all these good things into the world and then turn around and be rude and be heartless and be vengeful and be manipulative. I just can't do that. So unfortunately for y'all, I got to be good. I have to be. So I'm reflecting on this one. I am doing my best to take the lesson from every situation, but not let it change me. I'm trying to pass through the situation without letting the situation pass through me to the point that I am knocked off my square and that I am changing myself and becoming cold. But it is really hard. And even the woman I am today, I am a lot more firm, a lot more stern than I was 2, 3, 4 years ago because I've been put in situations that I have had to stand up for myself. Because, being a black woman, especially a younger black woman, when you walk into situations, whether in the workplace, whether defending yourself in the creative industry, taking meetings with creative partners, networks, people will really just take your feet at sometimes. And you have to really just let them know that no, I'm kind, but I can still you could don't pull it out of me because you will not like it. It's a balancing act for me. Like I will continue to do things with a pure heart, but it doesn't mean that people should not get to suffer the consequences of their bad actions towards me. And that's the part that is hurting me and that I'm still trying to figure out is okay, I'll keep being a good person, great. But what about them? What about the people that do hurt me? What about the consequences for their actions? Do I just leave it up to karma or do I take it into my own hands? Like, what am I supposed to do about that? And so I'm still working through this one. I am still navigating through this. I am still working on this one. But I think that by next year, I'll have more concrete answers. And I think it'll be a little bit clearer to me as to how to move in regard to this lesson. So I will say this is like a half lesson for me right now. I've definitely learned it. I've learned the importance of navigating things still with a pure heart, but as to the how and how I should feel towards people that wrong me, I'm still navigating that. I'm still navigating this one. All right, y'all, this is the last lesson, number 9. And this is be a community builder. It is really important right now. I think if we just zoom out on a global level, there's so much going on. There's so much confusion. There's so much uncertainty from our economic, you know, situations to our personal livelihoods, relationships. Things are just so confusing right now. And I think a lot of it does have to do with the economy because affordability is really hard right now, from homes to jobs to the kind of lives we want for ourselves. And I think it's really important right now to really just develop the community that you want that can help to sustain you when times get hard. Part of the reason that I was able to navigate, my job loss last year is because I had cultivated from my friends to my network to my mentors. Like I had different pockets of community that encouraged me and poured into me and that I could call and cry and talk to. And people would send me things, even if I wasn't perfectly qualified for them, they would still speak my name in rooms. And I have been able to build that because I am also that person for them. I've lent people money when they needed things. I'm not doing that anymore though. Okay, that one is for a small select group of people and they know who they are. So please, I have cared for people in the way that I would hope that people can also care for me. So that's why I know that I received the goodness from them that I received last year. But you can't just be an island and expect that at the time that you need a community is just going to happen. It's just going to appear. It doesn't work like that, So I will say continue to pour into your community, cultivate it, and for me, community can be structured, it can be structureless. Community can be, you know, I have a friend that I helped her babysit for a period in her life when she really needed it. And lately, I'm not able to do that anymore because of just where I'm at in life, but I'm able to help her through other ways. Sometimes we'll be on the phone with each other and we'll just be each other's work session buddy, and we're both encouraging each other through this period in our life. I have creative girlies that we're constantly checking in and we're like, girl, when are we gonna make some serious money from this podcast and shit? Like, when is it gonna happen for us? And we just keep encouraging each other along the journey. I have my networking and urban planning where it's like, okay, we keep talking about certain things. And, I know for some of you, community is an exclusive membership club that you charge $100 a month for. To you, that's what community is. But it's not, that's not community. I think that is a very small portion and type of what community is. But I think community at the base of it is a group of people that you are collectively caring for, and I think that you also have to be prepared for some inconveniences as a community builder. I had to. There's sometimes I'm like, oh, damn, I got to help you again. But yes, you do, because they will also turn around and help you when it is inconvenient for them. So it's all about give and take, give and take. And I think the word community has been so co-opted and just taken apart for marketing purposes that now everyone is like, oh, I want to start a community. I want to start a community. I want to start a community, but there's a difference. I want to do it right. And even with the listeners of this podcast, yes, there will be a time where I charge for, a monthly membership, or I charge for events and stuff, but I have cultivated that. I have given things for free, and I still will give things for free. I still will want our community to be a space where we talk about the topics and you tell me, okay, Chid, this is how I would like to be served. If I'm paying this much, can you serve me in this way? And I will say, yes. I would love for community to be a place where, even if it's just women, it's like, hey, y'all, today I need help. Can someone pick my kid up from here? I know and that's what community is for us in that time. It doesn't just have to be this structured thing where there's a community leader and everybody else is just here at your beck and call. So for me, I am continuing to just deepen my understanding into what community actually is, especially in this time, because I know that community has been so helpful for me over the past year and a half. And I know that it will only continue to be helpful for me, especially as life gets tougher. Things are really hard right now for a lot of people. Like, I know more people now that have lost their jobs than I did in the pandemic. People are struggling. I know people who are wanting to buy homes. They don't want to make any moves right now because the market is shaky. Should we have kids? Should we not have kids? Like, there are real life hard conversations and decisions being made, and we really do need each other in this time. So I think just remove and shed that mask of what you think community should be for socials and for Instagram, and just take it back to the root. Okay? And that's what I'll say on that for now. We will definitely have more conversations on what it means to be a true community builder, because I have a friend who has been doing it so well, and we will definitely get into it more on a future episode. But those are my 9 lessons that 29 has taught me by fire and by a lot of force. All right, y'all. So those are some of the lessons that 29 has taught me so far, from just avoiding making rushed decisions to being proud of the good decisions that I do make, and evaluating my friendships, and just continuing to re-explore what joy means to me, especially in this current season that I'm navigating, to continuing to be a community builder in every sense of the word. That one is really important and means a lot to me. So I hope you enjoyed this solo episode. I will definitely be doing a lot more of these this season, because listen, I have a lot to talk about and I have a lot to share with you all. So I'm definitely looking forward to, releasing and just sharing more on a personal level with you all through these solo episodes. So thank you so much for listening. Please share this episode with that friend would love to hear this and needs to hear right now. And, talk about it in the group chat. Okay. Share it. Talk about which lesson y'all connected with. And then come on socials on Instagram and TikTok at BWDIK Podcast, and let us know which one, resonated with you the most, or which one, if any, you're navigating, right now yourself. If you're shy or you're not on socials, let us know through email. It's connect@BWDIK Podcast. And finally, just make sure that you are subscribed on whatever platform it is that you use to listen to or watch the podcast. I really appreciate it. And this just helps us continue to grow the podcast across all the platforms that we got it on this season: YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all of that. As always, take care of yourself. Enjoy summer, girlies. Enjoy it. Get outside, say yes, and keep living.